So a doctor and a lawyer were talking at a cocktail party, and the doctor approaches the lawyer and says, "How much money do you get for your advice?" The lawyer said, "Well, I have a basic package of 3 questions. Your first 3 questions cost $500. The doctor says, "Well, my gosh, $500 for 3 questions, don't you think that's pretty expensive?" The lawyer says, "Well, no, I think that's pretty reasonable. And what's your 3rd question?" So that's really setting up the value proposition. What do people value? What do your employees value? What do your potential employees value in your benefit package, to try to see about what we can do to offer, what we can do to make sort of combat that great resignation. We're going to do that by talking about 3 things today. We're going to give you a little bit of background, talk about a whole lot of various benefits and compensation options, and number 3, we're going to talk about avoiding some of the compliance traps that are waiting out there for the unwary. So does that work for everybody? All right. So we've all been reading about the Great Resignation. What does it mean? What is it happening? Is anybody here struggling to get employees, keep employees, recruit employees? I see a few hands coming up, and certainly that's in all the mass media. It's an issue for everybody. And there's been a big movement towards offering some additional kinds of things and looking at new twists on traditional benefits to try to see if you can't combat that, besides just throwing a lot of money at everybody. So I'm going to use this Harris poll information that was in Fortune magazine to kind of talk through a lot of different kinds of options, benefits options, new twists on benefits options, different kinds of things that we have to offer that employers are looking at in a lot of different ways. And we'll talk about that and sort of give you that, use that as our baseline. And these are the kinds of things that employees have said, this is what I want. Notice, compensation is still number 1. And that's going to be a recurring theme. Am I getting paid enough? That's going to be the number 1 issue for everybody. Whoop. Am I going back? Yeah. All right. So does this play automatically then? Okay.
Or maybe I'll become a party director. I don't know, but I'm really excited about what the future holds.
The last 2 years have been such a grind that I thought I might retire when I turned 65 in the fall. Instead, some former colleagues contacted me about a new venture they had and asked if I might be interested in helping them build out the department in my specialty. So far, so good. I'm having a blast, and who knows when I'll ever retire.
That was, respectively, listener Cameron, listener Kate, and listener Jay Kirschbaum. Thanks to them and to everyone who shared their responses with us. Now, back to Stephen and Angela's conversation about how to decide whether it's time to retire.
So that was me, and with respect to retirees, we read about what retirees are looking for and really going and expanding their pool to offering additional kinds of benefits. I was shocked to see the kinds of things that retirees are looking for, because as a baby boomer, when I started out in private practice, the idea that I was going to get a caring leader in a private law firm was just laughable to me. I mean, I don't know if that person existed in the private practice of law when I was there, but the idea that that's what retirees are looking for was something that was beyond my understanding. But in general, I think one of the things you see here is there are a lot of things on this list that are similar to what other generations want. Flexibility about time, place, when we're working, how we're working, and offering all those kinds of options. So we're going to talk about how all these things fit into the general overall package. I really just included this slide so I could use that clip from that podcast. So Gen Z, we're going to hear more about what the generations want, but Gen Z is saying publicly, we want mission-driven work. Oh, but we want to get paid a lot of money first. That's number 1. We want to get paid, but then we want mission-driven work. So we see this in the media. We see this in the articles written about what people are looking for, how they want to get paid, what they want to get paid, and what the options are with respect to getting paid. I'm going to talk through the compensation pieces, but generally speaking, all these things on the compliance side, if you offer higher pay, not a problem. It's just additional taxable income. So I'm an ERISA lawyer, and when we talk about ERISA plans, ERISA benefits, we're trying to avoid taxation. So we're going to talk about different ways to avoid immediate taxable income in addition, but generally speaking, additional compensation is going to be additional taxable income. Retirement plans, we're going to have deferrals, health and wellness stipends. We're going to talk about various options with respect to health and welfare stipends. If you have a workstation at home, generally speaking, if it's for the convenience of the employer, it's not going to be taxable income. So who pays for workstations for your employees working at home? Is that an option that nobody here has people working from home, so it's not going to be an issue. And then finally, tuition reimbursement has been a big issue lately with respect to ongoing education, ongoing training. Right now, currently, you can repay student loans of up to $5,250 a year through 2025. We'll see if that gets extended. The traditional way you pay for tuition reimbursement was you had that amount that was available for going back to college, getting additional education, but it was on a reimbursement perspective. It wasn't to pay for student loans. We'll see how that plays out long term with respect to where that continues to be a potential issue for people. Paid time off is generally going to be taxable income because you're paying people. If they're off, not working, but getting paid, that's taxable income. The issues you need to look for are in your benefit plans, your medical plans and other kinds of plans, which may have obligations or requirements around eligibility. How long people can be off, when they can be off, when they lose eligibility for your medical plan. If that's more than in 13 weeks or an extended period of time with the ACA requirements, it may be something that you have to look at. Now, the carriers will all permit you to extend that period of time, but you want to make sure that that's in your contract and people don't lose eligibility for the time they're off. Other allowances are generally going to be tax-free if they're for the convenience of the employer, their actual business expenses. How many people offer free coffee and snacks at work? You know, that's a taxable benefit. Now, nobody cares, really, but technically it's a taxable benefit with respect to whether people get free food at work. Now, nobody cares about it, it's not a big issue, but I'm a tax lawyer by training, so I gotta tell you that's really technically a taxable benefit. Subsidized child care, if you do it through a dependent care plan, and people generally have dependent care plans, that's going to be an option. Up to $5,000 a year, it can be non-taxable depending upon how that's set up. If you go beyond that or offer it directly, it's going to be a taxable benefit. Commuter benefits are a big deal in some of the larger cities, but in a funny way, that didn't even show up on the list in the Harris poll. This is the things that employees are looking for in their benefit packages. I'm going to talk about flexible leaves, but first, I've got a few slides on FMLA. I'm not going to go through the FMLA requirements. You can get those elsewhere, and I'll leave these are going to be in the presentation, but I'm not going to go through the details. If you have employees in more than one jurisdiction, you're dealing with a lot of potential different leave mandates. Anybody have employees in Southern California? So you got employees in Southern California. California has a set of leave mandates. If you've got employees in LA County has a different set of leave mandates. If you have employees in the city of Los Angeles, yet another set of leave mandates. So you've got to be just the most generous of any of those with respect to those particular employees. And then when your employees in Tennessee get wind of the fact that your employees in California get these outrageous paid leave requirements, you got to deal with the fallout there. It's just an ongoing issue with respect to what we've got to offer, what we've got to look at. In my tenure as an ERISA attorney, this is a new thing. All these new leave mandates, all these new leave requirements. They're going to be coming, the more and more are coming on board. This is from 2021 from the Kaiser study. I haven't updated it, but new leave mandates are in place, and you're just going to have to deal with those. Paid leave is still taxable income. Again, the same kinds of issues we talked about in the prior slide with respect to paid leave. Taxable income, make sure that those paid time off periods are covered in your medical plans. Other kinds of flexible scheduling issues, again, not necessarily a compliance issue, but if you give people flexible time off, flexible eligibility, you want to make sure your plans that they're covered, that they don't lose eligibility for that time off if they're not getting paid. And that's the biggest issue. If you're in a health and welfare plan, often you have to be at work or actively working. You just want to make sure that these time off periods are covered by your medical plan. Anybody have or considering additional buy-ups or selling a PTO? Couple heads nodding. If you have flexibility around buying PTO and you don't want the PTO to be taxed anyway, even if they take it or don't take it, if you don't want to have additional taxation issues, it's got to be offered through your cafeteria plan. So you can have additional buy-ups of PTO or additional selling of PTO, but it's run through your cafeteria plan. So for my health and welfare experts out there, what does it mean if something's run through your cafeteria plan in order to avoid taxable income? That means they can't make changes to their elections without a change in status during the year. So people who buy or sell their PTO are stuck with that election unless there's an applicable change in status that applies to it. So just be aware of that with respect to how that plays out in your plans. Retirees love sabbaticals. If they're going to come back to work, they're still going to want time off. So if you're looking to attract retirees, think about whether or not you can give them extended time off. The same kinds of issues apply to this longer period of time where people are not there actively at work. Are they getting paid? They may get paid during a sabbatical. They may have extended time off where they're not being paid during the sabbatical. How does that play out? Are they getting coverage under the retirement plan for that time off? Are they getting coverage under the health and welfare plan for that time off? If you've got military leave, remember that's built in. They can't lose their opportunity to get a sabbatical just because they're gone during their military leave. So these are some of the kinds of issues to think through if this is something that might be attractive to your workforce or attractive to the people that you're trying to recruit. So additional benefits generally. This is kind of the traditional list of optional benefits. And one of the things that I'd like to kind of talk about a little bit is really giving your employees the opportunity to kind of pick and choose. What is it that I want? What is it that I want as a potential retiree? What is it that I want as a new millennial, or as a millennial or a Gen Z kind of employee? Where do I get to make my own choices with respect to your benefit options? So you already probably provide a lot of these things. You have a cafeteria plan where people can pick and choose among the various options in your cafeteria plan and reduce their salary and taxable income accordingly. Flexible spending accounts, both healthcare and dependent care, we've talked about that. Various voluntary benefits. You really explore the different kinds of voluntary benefits that are all after tax. Generally, they're going to be after tax, and the hurdle to worry about here is make sure if your voluntary benefits are after tax, if you want your voluntary benefits to be outside of ERISA, and I'm a proponent of saying they don't need to be outside of ERISA, and maybe it's not a good idea to have them outside of ERISA, but most employers keep their voluntary benefits outside of ERISA. Make sure you don't run them through your cafeteria plan. If they go through your cafeteria plan, they become ERISA benefits, and then you've got to comply with all the ERISA requirements associated with that. That's not so bad unless you forget to do it. And then you have potential penalties with respect to Forms 5500 and other issues that you've got to make sure you are aware of. Anybody here have a high deductible health plan with HSAs? So giving people an opportunity to pay for their own retiree medical, in essence, with respect to HSAs, health savings accounts, and make that an option. I mean, I love health savings accounts. They're completely tax-free. If I fund it, I get a deduction. If my employer funds it, it's not taxable income. It goes tax-free. And when I use it for medical benefits, I can use it tax-free. So, pardon me to my retirement plan friends here, but it's better than a 401k because it comes out 100% tax-free. So I get to use it for all my medical benefits on a tax-free basis. Fantastic. Even better, if I don't mind paying the taxes, or I don't mind having to play the audit lottery, I can take that money out for anything I want. So, they just had the boat show in St. Louis, and I need a new bass boat. And if I want to get the money out of my HSA, it's just between me and the IRS agent with respect to whether that bass boat was really necessary for me to maintain my mental health status. And it's really fighting mental health depression that I had to get that bass boat. And the only person I have to convince of that is the IRS agent. So HSAs are an option that we want to look at. Anybody here have a health reimbursement arrangement? One hand went up here in the audience. Health reimbursement arrangements are the most underutilized benefit out there. It gives you, now it's not an employee-funded plan. You can't have the employees fund it, but you fund it. But it gives you so much flexibility as an employer with respect to how you structure this account-based option in your medical plan. And you can have vesting or you don't have to have vesting. Anybody here remember class year vesting in retirement plans? Class year vesting is sort of, you never get 100% vested in your retirement benefit. Each year, you start over in the vesting of that year's benefit. Well, that was outlawed 30 years ago in retirement plans. You can have class year vesting in your health reimbursement arrangement if that's what you want to do. Now, I'm not advocating that you do that. That's just an illustration of the amount of flexibility that's built into HRAs. So you have a health reimbursement arrangement, it can carry over, it doesn't have to carry over. So it's an account-based option for employees to get credit to be able to use to pay for current medical benefits, or maybe have it roll over as a retiree medical benefit. And again, it's going to be used for medical benefits, so it's not quite as valuable as the HSA because there's no deduction for it. But when the money comes out of the HRA in retirement, it comes out tax-free because it's going to be used to reimburse the employee for medical expenses. So it's tax-free versus potentially a taxable withdrawal out of a traditional IRA or 401k or an after-tax distribution from a Roth, but went in after tax as well. So look at HRAs are an option that are well underutilized. In addition to a flexible option, we're talking about lifestyle accounts, and these generally are not going to be ERISA-type plans. But this gives you an option to fund additional kinds of things that your employees might want that can't be funded on a pre-tax basis. So generally speaking, these are all going to be taxable benefits, but gives your employees an opportunity to spend the money any way they like on various different things. Gym memberships, yoga classes. This is my daughter. She got certified as a yoga instructor. She lives in Seattle. This is probably the only day of the year in Seattle where it was actually sunny. Yeah, you could get a nice picture there. But you could various different things. Now, if you want them to be pre-tax, you could. We talked about some of the things that are pre-tax, but some of the other items are potentially medical benefits. So if you don't cover acupuncture in your medical plan and you want people to have access to acupuncture benefits, it's going to be a medical benefit even though it's not in your medical plan. So you need to make sure you figure out how to avoid some of these potential landmines with respect to the benefits in your lifestyle account. These lifestyle accounts are getting much more attractive, they're getting much more common. Just be aware that depending on the type of benefits that go in, it might be a medical plan. If it's a medical plan, you've got to comply with ERISA, HIPAA, the ACA, COBRA, everything else. So generally speaking, we would advise you to avoid medical benefits in your lifestyle account, put all your medical benefits in your medical plan where you're already complying with all those requirements, and with respect to the other issues associated with how that plays out. Telemedicine is really gained a lot of traction during the lockdowns. People understood how they worked, how it works. People understood the value of it. Right now, all the potential landmines are not there for telemedicine. You can offer telemedicine for first dollar payment without violating the HSA requirements. It's not going to be an issue with respect to standalone option. Now, standalone in your medical plan, standalone means that if telemedicine is offered to people who are not also in your group medical plan, you're offering them a group medical benefit for getting access to telemedicine. If you offer people who are not in your group medical plan telemedicine because it's cheap and easy and available, you're causing that plan to become a medical plan. That means that standalone telemedicine option is subject to ERISA, the ACA, and everything else associated with it. So you don't want to be, you cannot offer telemedicine to people who are not already in your group medical plan without setting it up as a separate group medical benefit. And if you do that, it violates the ACA requirements because telemedicine generally does not meet the other requirements under the ACA. And that's on this slide. Whoops. I'm not going the right direction here. Oh, on that slide, I'm not going there. Can you get me back? No, here we go. Wrong button, sorry. Mental health benefits have really taken off as an option. There's a lot of there are issues associated with them. The biggest issue from your perspective as an employer is you do not have to offer mental health benefits in your medical plan, but if you do, they have to meet the mental health parity requirements associated with offering mental health benefits. As an employer, how many of you know what your mental health benefit requirements are with respect to parity? Do you know whether your mental health benefits that are in your medical plan meet the parity requirements? You have no idea. The carriers have the idea. They're the ones who set it up. They're the ones who you rely on. But just like this Dilbert cartoon, it doesn't matter. The people that are going to blame, and much like Jim's comments earlier, the people who are to blame if something goes wrong is the employer. You have responsibility to make sure your mental health benefits meet the mental health parity requirements. The same with No Surprises Act, the same with transparency. So be aware of that and be careful when that comes down the road that you're getting, and we suggest that the vendors sign off specifically that they're going to take responsibility for that. We haven't had any success getting them to actually say that explicitly, but those are the options that you need to look at. There are a lot of new vendors in the marketplace that are coming to offer all kinds of different ways to expand your medical benefits. These are just a few of them. No, almost all of these are actually medical benefits. The same thing that apply to the issues with respect to telemedicine apply to all these different options because they all offer medical benefits. That means they've got to be part of your medical plan in order to stay in compliance with all the requirements associated with it. So I'll just leave that out there for you to be aware of and understand how that applies. And as these vendors come to you, you'll understand that they need to be part of your medical plan. So, are there any other questions? I went through that very quickly, but you've got the slides, you've got the information. A couple of questions did come in before the session, and it was really talking about what other kinds of features and what are the vendors out there. There are other vendors that are offering various different kinds of medical benefits. I'll leave that list with you so you understand who's out there. And then there's asked about alternatives to these different account-based options. I think the issue is maybe lifestyle accounts are an additional alternative potentially, but they don't have the benefits that are available for HRAs, health savings accounts, and flexible spending accounts. So I hope that was, in the time we had together, I hope that gave you some information. Didn't scare you too much. The takeaway is all of those kinds of different benefits are available, they're optional, they do have compliance issues associated with them, but if you're aware of them, you'll be able to avoid the landmines. Thanks for your attention.